Jacob stood before the Galactic Council chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon him. His simple uniform looked plain against the shimmering armor and elaborate garments surrounding him. Princess Emma of the Krell Empire rose from her crystalline throne, her purple skin glowing with barely contained amusement. Four arms crossed in a gesture of dismissal. "This is what Earth sends." Her voice rang through the vast hall, musical yet cutting. A soft creature with no claws, no natural armor, no combat enhancements. The assembled delegates from 60 star systems whispered among themselves. Some laughed. Jacob kept his expression neutral. He had been warned about the Krell princess. Young, brilliant, and utterly convinced of her empire's superiority. "Humanity seeks only peaceful relations," Jacob said calmly. Emma descended the stairs, circling him like a predator examining prey. "Look at you. Fragile skin that tears. Weak bones that break. A single heart that can stop. You live barely a century." She gestured to the assembly. "Most species here will outlive your entire civilization. Strength comes in many forms, princess." She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Show me one form you possess, human, and perhaps I will reconsider my assessment." The challenge hung in the air like a blade. 3 months earlier, Jacob had been selected from thousands of candidates. The discovery of the hyperspace beacon had changed everything. Humanity was no longer alone, but they were desperately behind. The selection committee had been clear. "We need someone who can endure. Not our strongest or smartest, but someone who represents what humanity truly is." Jacob, a former rescue worker turned diplomat, had somehow fit their criteria. He had pulled people from collapsed buildings, talked down hostage situations, and spent years in conflict zones. He was patient, resilient, and difficult to break. The journey to the council station took 6 weeks. The alien ship that transported him was uncomfortable, designed for beings with different anatomies. Jacob adapted, sleeping in odd positions, eating ration bars when the alien food made him ill. His first sight of the station took his breath away. A structure larger than Earth's moon, housing millions of beings from across the galaxy. Ships of impossible designs docked at thousands of ports. Captain Vex, the insectoid navigator, had clicked his mandibles in what Jacob learned was sympathy. Humans were not meant for the stars. Too fragile. Too slow. "You will see." Jacob simply nodded and prepared himself for what awaited. The Galactic Council governed trade, territorial disputes, and maintained peace among member species. Membership meant access to technology, trade routes, and protection. It also meant proving your species had something to offer. Ambassador Trell of the Unified Worlds greeted Jacob with cool professionalism. His gray skin and 3 eyes gave nothing away. Earth's application is unusual. Most species reach the stars through their own development. You found our beacon by accident. We're fast learners, Jacob replied. Perhaps. Trell led him through corridors of living metal. But the Council values strength. Military capability. Economic power. Cultural influence. What does humanity offer? Jacob had asked himself the same question many times. Earth had 7 billion people, scattered across one world. No faster-than-light travel of their own design. Weapons that would be primitive jokes to most species here. Perspective, Jacob finally said. Every species here evolved differently. We might see solutions others miss. Trell's expression might have been a smile. An optimistic answer. Princess Emma will evaluate your claim. She assesses new applicants. The Krell Princess. She's young for such responsibility. She is 400 years old and holds mastery in 16 disciplines of warfare and governance. Do not mistake her youth by Krell standards for inexperience. Jacob filed that information away. This would be harder than he thought. Jacob spent his first week studying everything available about the Krell. Their empire spanned 40 star systems, built over 10,000 years of calculated expansion. The Krell were long-lived, averaging 800 years. They possessed 4 arms, dense bone structure, and redundant organs. Injury that would kill a human was mere inconvenience to them. Their military had never lost a war. Princess Emma was the Emperor's youngest daughter, but his most capable. She commanded fleets, negotiated treaties, and had personally fought in the border conflicts. Warriors twice her age deferred to her tactical brilliance. She was also, Jacob learned, utterly convinced that physical superiority determined a species' worth. The Krell philosophy was simple: the strong protect the weak, and the weak serve the strong. They were not cruel masters, but they were masters nonetheless. Dozens of client species existed under Krell protection, trading autonomy for safety. Jacob understood what Emma saw when she looked at him. A potential subject, not an equal. His assigned quarters were sparse. The station's gravity was slightly higher than Earth's, a constant strain. The atmosphere had more nitrogen, making him slightly lightheaded. Small discomforts designed to test him. He adapted and waited for his formal evaluation. Emma's first test was physical. Combat assessment, she called it. Jacob faced a Krell warrior in a training circle. The alien stood 3 meters tall, 4 muscular arms holding blunted weapons. His opponent was young by Krell standards, barely a century old. Defend yourself, Emma commanded from her observation platform. Jacob had no weapons. He wore simple training clothes. The Krell warrior moved with terrifying speed. The first strike sent Jacob rolling across the floor. The second knocked the air from his lungs. He struggled to his feet, vision blurring. The assembly watched with clinical interest. No one expected him to win. This was about how long he could last. Jacob lasted 4 minutes before a strike to his ribs ended it. He felt something crack, pain lancing through his chest. Pathetic, Emma declared. A Krell child could endure longer. Jacob climbed to his feet, breathing carefully. Request permission to continue training. Emma's eyes widened slightly. You wish for more humiliation. I wish to improve. Something flickered across her face. Curiosity perhaps. Very well. Same time tomorrow. Perhaps you will last 5 minutes. As medical drones tended his injuries, Jacob smiled despite the pain. He had learned something valuable. Emma respected persistence, even if she would not admit it. Tomorrow, he would last longer. For 2 weeks, Jacob faced the training circle each day. His opponents varied: Krell warriors, stone-skinned mock fighters, lightning-fast Selvian strikers. He lost every match. Emma attended each session, her commentary growing sharper. Humans break so easily. Observe how his bones fracture from impacts we would ignore. The assembled observers laughed. Representatives from powerful species shook their heads. Earth's application for council membership became a source of entertainment. But Jacob noticed patterns. He learned to roll with impacts, reducing damage. He studied each opponent's movements, finding rhythms and tells. His losses became less catastrophic. On the 15th day, he landed a strike against his Krell opponent. A glancing blow, barely registered, but it connected. The room went silent. Emma leaned forward on her throne. Again. They fought again. Jacob landed 2 more strikes before defeat. Interesting, Emma said quietly. The soft human adapts. She addressed the crowd. Notice how he learns. His body remains weak, but his tactics improve. An animal learning tricks. The insult stung, but Jacob bowed respectfully. Thank you for the observation, Princess. Her eyes narrowed. She did not like his composure. That evening, Jacob found his quarters reassigned. The new room had Earth-normal gravity and atmosphere. A gift from Emma, delivered without acknowledgement. The council required cultural exchange sessions. Emma assigned herself as Jacob's primary contact, a duty she performed with obvious disdain. They met in a neutral observation room overlooking the station's commercial sector. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species moved below like a living tapestry. "Tell me of Earth's achievements," Emma demanded. "Surely your species has accomplished something noteworthy." Jacob considered carefully. Military might would not impress her. Technology would seem primitive. "We have something called music. Many species produce organized sound. The Krell have symphonic traditions spanning millennia." "I would like to hear them," Jacob said genuinely. "And I would like to share ours in return." Emma seemed taken aback by his sincerity. She played a Krell composition, powerful, complex, mathematically precise. It was beautiful in an overwhelming way. Jacob played a human piece, a simple piano melody by a composer named Debussy. Emma listened in silence. When it ended, she spoke quietly. "It is fragile. Delicate. Like your species." "Yes. And that is why it moves us. We create beauty because we are fragile. Every moment matters when you only have one lifetime." For the first time, Emma had no cutting response. She stared at him with an expression he could not read. "Tomorrow we discuss military structure," she finally said. "I expect you will disappoint me there as well." But her voice lacked its usual edge. The military discussion went as expected. Earth's armies were small-scale compared to galactic standards. No energy weapons. No planetary shields. No fleet of warships. "How do you defend your world?" Emma asked, genuine curiosity replacing mockery. "We have not needed to defend Earth from external threats," Jacob admitted. "Our conflicts have been with each other." "You war among yourselves." Emma seemed shocked. "Your species is unified under your council application." "Now, yes. But our unity is recent. We spent thousands of years in conflict. We know war intimately, Princess. Perhaps too well." Emma gestured to a holographic display. "Show me a human battle. I wish to understand how you fight." Jacob chose carefully. He showed her recordings from World War II, the beaches of Normandy, soldiers advancing through impossible fire. Emma watched intently. They know they will die. Most of them die. Yet they advance. They fight for something beyond themselves. "Madness," Emma whispered. But she watched the entire recording. "Krell warriors are brave because we survive most wounds. Humans are brave despite knowing you will not. This is different." She turned to Jacob. "Your species fights itself with such determination. Imagine if you focus that will outward. We are trying. That is why I am here." Emma stood, her forearms clasped in a gesture Jacob now recognized as thoughtfulness. "I have underestimated you, Jacob of Earth. This was foolish of me." It was not quite an apology, but coming from her, it meant everything. Ambassador Trell requested an urgent meeting. His 3 eyes showed distress, unusual for his typically composed species. "The Devourers have been detected in the outer regions," he said without preamble. Jacob had heard whispers about the Devourers. A nomadic species that consumed resources from entire worlds, leaving dead rocks behind. The Council's greatest threat. How close? Emma demanded. She had arrived moments after Jacob. 3 systems away. They are moving toward the station. Emma's composure cracked. "We must mobilize the defense fleets immediately." "Already done." "But Princess, their swarm numbers in the tens of thousands. Our intelligence suggests this is their largest migration in 500 years. Jacob listened carefully. What do they want? Everything, Trell replied. They do not negotiate. They simply consume and move on. Emma began issuing orders through her communicator. Fleet positions, shield deployments, evacuation protocols for non-combatants. Her tactical mind operated with impressive speed. She glanced at Jacob. You should evacuate with the other civilian observers. This is not your fight. What can I do to help? She almost smiled. You are brave, but untrained in our systems. You would be a liability in combat operations. The words stung, but Jacob knew they were true. Then I will assist with civilian evacuation. Emma nodded approvingly. That is useful work. Go. As Jacob left, he heard Emma speaking to Trell. The human has courage. I regret he will probably die before learning if Earth joins the Council. The station transformed into a fortress. Civilian ships departed in waves. Defense platforms powered up weapons that could crack planets. Warships from a dozen species formed battle formations. Jacob worked in the evacuation centers, helping organize the chaos. His experience in disaster zones proved valuable. He coordinated flow patterns, identified bottlenecks, kept people calm. A young Selvian child became separated from her family. Jacob found her hiding in a corner, terrified. He sat beside her, speaking softly until her parents arrived. The gratitude in their eyes transcended species. Emma found him there, exhausted after 18 hours of continuous work. You should rest, she said. So should you. She laughed, a genuine sound unlike her earlier mockery. I have been awake for 3 days. Krell require less sleep. That must be useful. Yes. But it also means more time to worry. She sat beside him, an informal gesture that would have shocked the council. Jacob, I must tell you something. He waited. If the station falls, there will be no escape for those who remain. The devourers show no mercy. They will consume everything organic for fuel. I understand. You could have left on the first evacuation ship. Why did you stay? Jacob met her eyes. Because these people needed help. Because running felt wrong. Because if humanity wants to join the stars, we need to prove we belong here. Not just in peaceful times. Emma's expression softened. You are strange, Jacob of Earth. Weak in body but strong in spirit. I no longer know what to make of you. Maybe that is progress. She smiled. Perhaps it is. The devourers arrived like a plague across the stars. Their ships were organic, grown rather than built. They moved in swarms, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers. The first battle line engaged them at the system's edge. The light from weapons fire reached the station minutes later, a deadly light show across the void. Jacob watched from an observation deck as Emma commanded the defense. She stood at a tactical hologram, for arms moving in constant motion, coordinating thousands of ships. Her tactical brilliance was evident. She created kill zones, used gravity wells as weapons, sacrificed unmanned platforms to protect crewed vessels. Every decision calculated to preserve life while maximizing damage. But there were too many devourers. Second line, fall back to defense grid Gamma, Emma ordered. Strain showed in her voice. Jacob brought her water. She drank without looking away from the display. We are losing, she said quietly, meant only for him. Slowly, but inevitably. They have numbers we cannot match. How long can the station hold? Perhaps 3 days. Perhaps less. She manipulated the display, running simulations. All showed the same outcome. What do you need? Jacob asked. Emma looked at him. A miracle. Time. Reinforcements that do not exist. The devourers have never been stopped, only survived. species abandon systems and flee deeper into the galaxy. That is not acceptable. No, Emma agreed. But the universe rarely cares what we find acceptable. Jacob studied the tactical display, his mind racing. There had to be something. The Council War Room debated strategies. Ambassador Trell projected losses, 30% of defending forces already. The Devourers had barely slowed. We must consider evacuation, a mock general rumbled. Abandon the station. Retreat to fortified home systems. And surrender the council seat to them. Emma's voice cut like ice. This station is symbolic. If we abandon it, we show weakness across the galaxy. Better weakness than extinction, another voice argued. Jacob listened to the debate. Everyone focused on direct confrontation, matching strength against strength. It was how galactic warfare worked, advanced species with powerful weapons facing off. But humans had experience with asymmetric warfare. May I speak? Jacob asked quietly. The room went silent. Emma nodded. The Devourers operate as a swarm, correct? Individual ships with limited intelligence, following pheromone trails and basic directives. Essentially, yes, Trell confirmed. Then they are like insects on Earth. We have experience dealing with insect swarms. You do not fight them directly. You disrupt their coordination. A Selvian admiral hissed dismissively. We know this. We have attempted signal jamming. Their communication is biological, not technological. Then you target the biology, Jacob said. On Earth, we use pheromone confusion for pest control. Make false trails. Disrupt their ability to coordinate. Emma's eyes widened. Our sensors detect their chemical signals. If we could replicate them, broadcast false commands. They would scatter, Jacob continued. Fight each other. Waste time on empty coordinates. It would not stop them, but it might slow them enough. The room erupted in discussion. Emma worked furiously at her console. It could work, she breathed. The science teams worked desperately to synthesize devourer pheromones. Emma coordinated efforts across 3 laboratories while maintaining tactical command. Jacob assisted where he could, mostly staying out of the way of scientists far more knowledgeable. But occasionally, his outsider perspective helped. The chemical structure is too complex, a researcher complained. We cannot replicate it perfectly with our equipment. Does it need to be perfect? Jacob asked. On Earth, sometimes approximate pheromones work. The insects cannot tell the difference if it is close enough. The researcher paused. That would be significantly easier. 12 hours later, they had a prototype. Emma ordered it deployed immediately on a squadron of drone ships. The drones broadcast the false pheromones near a devourer cluster. The swarm's behavior changed immediately. Ships broke formation, some attacking each other, others veering toward empty space. It works, Emma whispered. Then louder, it works. Deploy all available drones. I want confusion throughout their entire formation. The tide of battle shifted. The Devourers, overwhelming in their coordinated assault, became chaotic and manageable when scattered. Defense forces picked off isolated groups. The Council fleet pushed forward. Emma coordinated the advance, but she kept glancing at Jacob. When a brief lull came, she approached him. You saved us, she said simply. The scientists did the work. I just asked a question. A question none of us thought to ask. She placed one hand on his shoulder, a gesture of respect among her people. I mocked your weakness. I was blind. Strength without wisdom is just brutality. You showed us wisdom. Jacob felt the weight of her acknowledgement. The battle continued, but victory seemed possible now. Emma finally allowed herself to rest, and Jacob joined her in a quiet observation room. Tell me about Earth, she said. Truly. Not strategic assessments or cultural reports. What is it like to live knowing you only have one lifetime? Jacob considered. Every moment carries weight. Every choice matters. We cannot wait centuries to pursue our dreams or repair our mistakes. Perhaps that makes us reckless. But it also makes us passionate. The Krell plan across generations. We build slowly, carefully. I have 300 years ahead of me, potentially more. There is always time. Emma stared at the stars. But perhaps that makes us complacent. Perhaps we forget urgency. Different perspectives, both valuable. Emma turned to him. I have lived 400 years, Jacob. I have commanded fleets, negotiated treaties, studied warfare and philosophy and art. Yet you, who have lived barely 40 years, saw a solution I missed. How? Because I am not smarter than you. I am different. I spent years in collapsed buildings, listening for survivors in the rubble. That teaches you to think about problems differently. You have fought wars across star systems. Different experience, different tools. Perspective, Emma said, remembering his earlier words to Ambassador Trell. Humanity's gift is perspective. One of them, perhaps. She smiled. What are the others? Stubbornness. We are very stubborn. Emma laughed, the sound genuine and warm. I have noticed. You return to the training circle every day despite knowing you will lose. I lasted 7 minutes yesterday. Yes. I noticed that too. The Devourer swarm adapted. Whether through evolution or simple learning, they began ignoring the false pheromones. The confusion tactic that had saved the station was failing. They have compensated, Emma reported grimly. New waves incoming. Estimates suggest 40,000 ships. The defense fleet numbered 8,000. Jacob watched the tactical display. Even scattered, those numbers were impossible. The Devourers would overwhelm through pure mass. Evacuation order? Trell asked quietly. Emma's jaw tightened. Begin final evacuation protocols. Non-essential personnel to the last transport ships. Military personnel to remain for final defense. She turned to Jacob. You must leave. Now. No. Jacob, this is not bravery. This is suicide. Please. I can still help. Coordination, logistics, something. I will not abandon you. Emma looked like she wanted to argue, but alarms blared. The Devourers were accelerating their assault, throwing themselves at the station's shields with renewed fury. Fine, Emma snapped. Stay at the command center. Monitor civilian evacuation routes. Keep them clear. Jacob took the assignment gratefully. Emma returned to tactical command, her 4 arms dancing across controls as she orchestrated the desperate defense. The station shuddered as impacts overwhelmed shield sections. Emergency bulkheads sealed breached areas. The defense fleet fought with magnificent courage, but they were being pushed back, meter by meter. Emma's voice remained steady, issuing orders, encouraging her forces. But Jacob saw fear in her eyes. Not for herself, but for everyone depending on her. He wished he could do more. The defense perimeter collapsed. Devourer ships broke through, heading for the station itself. Point defense systems destroyed hundreds, but more kept coming. Emma made a decision. All remaining forces, form close protective formation around the station. Abandon outer defenses. It was a last-stand formation. Jacob continued coordinating evacuation. Thousands still remained aboard. The transport ships could not leave fast enough. A Devourer ship crashed into the station's southern sector. Alarms screamed. Atmosphere vented. Emergency teams rushed to contain the breach. Jacob grabbed emergency equipment and ran toward the breach. Dozens of civilians were trapped in that section. He found them behind a buckled blast door, a mix of species, huddled in terror as the air grew thin. The door controls were dead. Jacob used manual override, straining against the warped metal. His muscles, weak by galactic standards, screamed in protest. The door shifted slightly. A Krell civilian joined him, then a Mach, then others. Together, they forced the door open enough for people to squeeze through. Jacob counted them as they evacuated. 43 lives. He was the last through, and the door finally gave way behind him, sealing the section. Emma's voice crackled over communications. Jacob, what are you doing in Section 7? Helping. A pause. Thank you. More impacts. More breaches. Jacob moved from crisis to crisis, pulling people from danger, keeping evacuation routes clear. His training as a rescue worker guided him through the chaos. He was exactly where he needed to be. Emma coordinated the defense with a growing sense of inevitability. They were buying time for evacuations, nothing more. The battle was lost. She had accepted this. Prepared for it. The Krell did not fear death in service of something greater. But watching Jacob's icon on the tactical display, seeing him move through danger zones to save civilians, she felt something unexpected, fear for another's life. Princess, you should evacuate, Trell urged. Your expertise is needed to rebuild defenses elsewhere. I command here. I will not abandon my post. Then the Krell Empire loses its finest tactical mind to pointless stubbornness. Emma almost laughed. Stubbornness. Jacob's word. She realized something. For 400 years, she had valued strength. Physical prowess, military might, technological superiority. These were the measures by which she judged all species. But Jacob had shown her different strengths. Resilience. Adaptability. Compassion under fire. The strength to face certain death to save 43 lives that, strategically speaking, meant nothing in the larger battle. Trell, what if we are fighting this wrong? Emma said suddenly. Princess. We match force against force. Standard tactics. But the Devourers always win that equation through numbers. We need asymmetry. We need to think like Jacob. She studied the tactical display with fresh eyes. The Devourers consumed resources. They were here for the station itself, vast stores of materials, organic compounds, energy reserves. What if we give them what they want? Emma whispered. A plan formed, desperate and dangerous. It would require sacrifice. But it might save everyone. Emma broadcast to all forces. Prepare for immediate evacuation. All personnel, all ships. 30 minutes. Confusion erupted across channels. Princess, we can hold longer than that, a captain protested. We are not holding. We are leaving. Complete evacuation. Confirm receipt. Confirmations came back, hesitant but obedient. Emma worked furiously at her console, programming a sequence that made her hands shake. Jacob appeared beside her. What are you doing? Saving everyone. The Devourers want the station's resources. I am going to give them exactly that. She showed him the program. The station's reactor can be overloaded. It will create a cascade explosion approximately 40 minutes after initiation. Enough time to evacuate. Not enough time for the Devourers to retreat. You will destroy the Council station. I will destroy the Devourer swarm. The station can be rebuilt. Those 40,000 ships represent a significant portion of their species. This loss will cripple them for centuries. Jacob saw the logic. The sacrifice. And you will be blamed for destroying the council seat. Probably. But everyone will be alive to blame me. Emma smiled sadly. I learned from you, Jacob. Sometimes strength means knowing when to retreat. Sometimes it means sacrifice. I will stay with you until the end. No, Emma said firmly. You will lead the civilian evacuations. Keep them calm. Keep them moving. That is where you are needed. They looked at each other. In weeks, they had gone from contempt to respect to something deeper. For what it is worth, Jacob said, I think you are making the right choice. Coming from you, that means everything. Emma initiated the reactor overload. Deep in the station's core, energies began building toward catastrophic release. The countdown began, 39 minutes. She opened all channels. This is Princess Emma. Complete evacuation order is in effect. All ships and personnel, depart immediately. The station will be destroyed in 39 minutes. Panic threatened, but Emma's commanders kept order. Transport ships filled beyond capacity. Warships provided cover as they fled. The defense fleet fought with renewed desperation, knowing every second counted. Jacob moved through the crowds, his calm presence settling nerves. He helped injured aboard ships, found space for stragglers, kept the flow moving. The devourers, sensing the evacuation, pressed harder. They wanted the station and would not let their prey escape easily. Emma coordinated the fighting retreat from the command center. 26 minutes. A devourer ship broke through, heading directly for the command center. Emma engaged emergency shields, but she knew they would not hold long. The ship crashed into the command tower. The structure shook. Emergency power flickered. Emma continued working calmly, rerouting ship assignments, adjusting defensive positions. 17 minutes. Jacob's voice crackled over her communicator. Emma, the last civilian transport is away. Final military ships departing. You need to evacuate now. Confirmed. Proceeding to evacuation point. Emma took one last look at the command center. She had spent months here, evaluating species, making decisions that shaped the galaxy. Now it would become a weapon. She ran for the hangar, counting seconds. Emma reached the hangar to find it empty. The last ships were gone. In the chaos and precise timing, she had been left behind. She checked the countdown, 11 minutes. This is Emma. I require immediate extraction. Any ship, respond. Silence. The communication systems were failing. The station's destruction had begun early, systems cascading faster than calculated. Emma felt something she rarely experienced, fear. Then a small transport ship appeared, flying erratically. It crashed more than landed in the hangar. The door opened. Jacob emerged. Need a ride? You came back. You fool. You beautiful, stupid fool. Could not let you die alone. Besides, I am a terrible pilot. We need to leave now. They ran for the ship. Behind them, explosions echoed through the station. 6 minutes. Jacob fought with the controls. The ship lurched upward, scraping against the hangar walls. They cleared the station just as a massive explosion consumed the docking sector. Ahead, thousands of devourer ships surrounded them. Without weapons or shields worth mentioning, they were defenseless. Hold on, Jacob said, pushing the engines beyond safety limits. He flew like a madman, diving and weaving between devourer ships. His inexperience became an asset. He did things no trained pilot would attempt because he did not know they were impossible. Emma monitored the countdown, 2 minutes. We will not make it to minimum safe distance, she said calmly. Watch me. Jacob angled the ship at a devourer formation, accelerating directly at them. The ships moved to intercept. At the last moment, Jacob reversed thrust, spinning the ship and firing the emergency thrusters in a completely unsafe maneuver. They shot sideways through a gap. Behind them, the Devourers collided with each other. 30 seconds. The Council fleet appeared ahead, all ships at maximum burn, fleeing the blast radius. 20 seconds. Come on, Jacob whispered to the struggling ship. 10 seconds. The ship's engines failed. They coasted on momentum, still too close. 5 seconds. Emma reached across, taking Jacob's hand. If they died, at least they died together. The station exploded. The explosion was beyond anything the galaxy had witnessed in centuries. The station's reactor consumed itself and everything around it. Energy cascaded outward in a sphere of annihilation. 40,000 Devourer ships vanished in an instant. The wave of destruction expanded, faster than anything could flee. It caught Jacob's ship, slamming into them like the fist of an angry god. The ship disintegrated around them. Emma pulled Jacob close, using her body to shield him, her denser physiology his only hope. Then the Council flagship was there, emergency shields extended, catching their tumbling forms in a tractor field even as their ship vaporized completely. They materialized in the flagship's emergency transport bay, surrounded by shocked crew members. Emma checked Jacob frantically. "Are you injured? Speak to me." Jacob coughed, his entire body bruised but alive. "That was too close. You came back for me. You risked everything." "Of course I did. What else would I do?" Emma laughed and cried simultaneously, overwhelmed by emotions Krell rarely showed publicly. "You are the bravest being I have ever known. The absolute bravest and most foolish." Medical teams rushed to treat them. Around them, the fleet erupted in cheers. The Devourer swarm was destroyed. The survivors were fleeing into deep space. The galaxy was saved. And at the center of it all, a human and a Krell princess who had learned to see beyond their assumptions. Ambassador Trell arrived, his 3 eyes wide with disbelief. That was the most reckless, brilliant strategy one have ever witnessed. Emma stood shakily, pulling Jacob up beside her. "Credit goes to both of us. I planned it. He executed it. I mostly just crashed around," Jacob admitted. "You saved my life. You saved everyone's life." They smiled at each other, and the entire fleet knew something had changed between them. The Council convened on the Krell homeworld while the station was rebuilt. The mood was somber but victorious. The Devourer threat would not return for generations. Emma stood before the assembled delegates, prepared for judgment. "I accept full responsibility for the station's destruction. I acted without Council approval. If there are consequences, I will face them." Ambassador Trell rose. "You saved millions of lives and eliminated the greatest threat to galactic civilization. The Council offers gratitude, not punishment." The assembly erupted in approval. Species who had barely acknowledged each other joined in united praise. But Emma raised a hand for silence. "I did not act alone. Jacob of Earth showed me the value of different perspectives. His insights and courage were crucial to our victory." All eyes turned to Jacob, who stood uncomfortably in his simple human clothing. "Earth's application for Council membership has been under evaluation," Trell continued. "We questioned what humanity could offer. I believe we have our answer." The vote was unanimous. Earth was granted full Council membership. Jacob accepted with quiet dignity. "Humanity is grateful. We promise to serve the Council with the same dedication shown here." Later, in private, Emma found Jacob on an observation deck. "You should be celebrating. So should you. You are a hero. We both are. Strange how that happened." Emma stood beside him, looking at the stars. "I mocked you when we met. Called you weak. I was so wrong. You were not entirely wrong. I am weak by your standards. Strength comes in many forms. You taught me that. The formal ceremony took place in the rebuilt council chamber. Jacob represented Earth, standing among ambassadors from across the galaxy. Emma presented him with the Star of Valor, the highest military honor. For courage beyond measure and sacrifice without hesitation, we honor Jacob of Earth. The assembly stood in respect. Species who had laughed at him weeks ago now applauded. Jacob accepted humbly. I represent billions of humans who share these same qualities. We are all capable of courage when circumstances demand it. The Krell Emperor himself addressed the council. My daughter has recommended a new initiative. Cultural exchange programs between species. We have much to learn from each other. Emma smiled at Jacob. This was her way of ensuring the galaxy never again dismissed a species based on surface assumptions. After the ceremony, ambassadors approached Jacob. They asked about Earth, about humanity, with genuine interest replacing dismissal. The mock general who had advocated retreat shook Jacob's hand carefully. You showed us that strength is not just physical. Thank you. The Selvian admiral hissed softly, a sound of respect. Humanity earned their place. You personally earned our admiration. Jacob deflected praise, but he knew this moment meant everything. Earth was no longer the outsider, the weakling species begging for acceptance. They were equals. That evening, Emma hosted a private dinner for Jacob. Just the two of them, without formality or politics. What will you do now? She asked. Return to Earth. Report our success. Begin preparations for full integration. There is much work ahead. Will you return to the council? If Earth sends me, will you be here? Always. This is my duty. Emma paused. But perhaps I will visit Earth. See this fragile world that produces such strong spirits. You would be welcome. Very welcome. They both knew this was more than diplomatic courtesy. Something had grown between them in the crucible of war. Jacob's return to Earth was triumphant. He brought with him technology, treaties, and most importantly, respect. Humanity had joined the galactic community as equals. The world celebrated, but Jacob found himself thinking of the council, of the stars, of Emma. They communicated regularly. Formal reports at first, but gradually more personal. Emma shared Krell philosophy and art. Jacob sent her human literature and music. 6 months later, Emma visited Earth. She walked through cities, met world leaders, experienced gravity that felt laughably light to her physiology. But mostly, she spent time with Jacob. They visited places important to him, the disaster sites where he had learned rescue work, the mountains where he found peace, the ocean that reminded him of space's vastness. Your world is beautiful, Emma said, standing on a beach at sunset. So fragile. So precious. It is home. I understand now why you fought so hard for connection. You know how special existence is. Emma had changed. The arrogant princess who mocked weakness had become someone who valued compassion, who saw strength in vulnerability. Jacob had changed too. The uncertain diplomat had become a bridge between worlds, confident in humanity's place among the stars. The council is establishing a permanent human embassy, Emma said. They requested you as ambassador. Did they now? And did a certain Krell princess influence that decision? Perhaps slightly. Emma smiled. We work well together. It would be inefficient to separate an effective team. Jacob laughed. Inefficient. Very logical reasoning. I am Krell. We are always logical. Of course. This has nothing to do with friendship. Well, Emma admitted, perhaps not entirely about efficiency. They watched the sun set together, two beings from different worlds who had found common ground in the vastness of space. 1 year after the Devourer battle, the new council station opened. Larger, stronger, designed with input from a dozen species including humanity. Jacob returned as Earth's ambassador. Emma greeted him personally, an honor that did not go unnoticed. "Welcome back, Ambassador Jacob." "Thank you, Princess Emma. It is good to be home." "You consider this home now?" "Anywhere I am working for something greater feels like home." They walked through the new station together. It featured memorials to those lost in the battle, including a special section honoring the desperate courage that had saved millions. Emma had insisted that Jacob's name appear prominently. He had protested, but she was still a Krell princess, and her stubbornness matched his own. The council chamber had changed too. Instead of thrones arranged by species power, the seating was circular. Equal positions for equal voices. "Your idea?" Jacob asked. "Our idea. You inspired it. I implemented it. Partnership then." "Always." The council session began. Dozens of species addressed matters of trade, territory, cultural exchange. Earth contributed to every discussion, their perspectives valued. During a recess, a young diplomat from a newly discovered species approached Jacob nervously. "Ambassador, my people are frightened. We are small, weak by galactic standards. How did humanity earn their respect?" Jacob smiled, remembering standing in this very position. "We showed them who we truly are. Not who we thought they wanted us to be. Strength comes in many forms. Find yours." Emma joined them. "And accept help. No species succeeds alone. The human learned that. So did I." The young diplomat bowed gratefully and departed. Jacob turned to Emma. "Remember when you mocked my weakness in this very chamber?" "I remember many foolish things I said. You have graciously not mentioned most of them. I was saving them for special occasions." Emma laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Come. We have a proposal to present. Joint Human Krell Research Initiative. Leading by example." "Exactly." They entered the council chamber together, the human and the Krell, different in every physical way but united in purpose. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: strength was not about size or weapons or how long you lived. It was about courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand against impossible odds for something greater than yourself. Humanity had taught them that. And in teaching it, humans had found their place among the stars. The story that began with mockery ended with respect, alliance, and the promise of a better future built together. Some called it a miracle. Jacob called it inevitable. Because when different perspectives unite toward a common goal, there is no challenge too great, no enemy too powerful, no future too distant to achieve. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy: hope, resilience, and the stubborn refusal to give up. And the galaxy was better for it.